The storm that night sounded like 1,000 loose bolts rattling on a tin roof. The open neon hummed in pink and blue, fighting rain the way a match fights wind. I propped the door open with my boot and dragged out the yellow caution sign for the slick floor no one ever read. Harlan, my boss, always said, "We're not in the charity business, kid. We sell gas." I never argued. I just kept a toolbox under the counter for people who needed more than fuel. That's when I saw her. She sat on the low concrete step beside pump 3, soaked but dignified, a long red dress clinging at the hem and flowing everywhere else, fully covering her. She cradled her belly with both hands, as if holding a world inside. The rain gathered in her hair and ran in little rivers down her temples. Beauty can be loud. Hers was quiet, like a prayer you think but never say out loud. I went out into the rain. "You okay, ma'am?" I asked, offering a hand. My palm looked huge and clumsy against her delicate fingers. She nodded once, then winced as a ripple crossed her face. "I'm okay. Just catching my breath." Her voice had the steadiness of someone who had run out of panic and started rationing fear. "You should be inside," I said. "Storm's not planning to apologize." "Is your phone working?" she asked. "Mine died. I need to call a shelter." I guided her in, brought a towel from the back room, the kind we use to dry wiper blades after refills. She said thank you the way people say it when they grew up being taught gratitude is a full sentence. "What's your name?" I asked, keying the ancient space heater to life. "Maya," she said. "I'm Ryan. Sit here, feet up. Want tea? It's chamomile, but I can pretend it's lemon if that helps." For the first time, she smiled. Not a big smile, just enough to tell me her face wasn't built for sadness. I plugged in her phone behind the register. While it fought its way back to 1 bar, I took a look at the stranger parked by pump 3. A battered sedan with the hood half-latched, steam hissing like a whispered argument. "Mind if I pop that hood?" I asked. "Please," she said. Under the neon rain, I found a cracked radiator hose and a belt that looked chewed by a dog with grudges. Harlan would have sold her a tow and called it a night. Me. I reached for my emergency tape, a spare hose piece I keep for midnight miracles, and the stubborn belief that good work is never wasted. Back inside, Maya watched the rivulets crawling down the window. "I was on my way to the shelter," she said. "Pastor Lewis knows me. I left in a hurry. I needed to." There was a weight in her words you could feel if you stood too close. "I didn't ask. You don't always have to. Service first. Questions later. Your car will limp 10 miles if you keep it under 40, I said. The shelters ate away. She exhaled, relief softening her shoulders. "Thank you. What do I owe you?" "Pay it forward," I said. Her eyes searched my face, maybe to see if I was joking. When she realized I wasn't, something gentle passed through her expression, like a bird deciding not to fly away. The bell over the door chimed. Old Man Harlan stepped in, shaking off rain like a suspicious dog. He eyed Maya, the towel, the space heater. "What is this hospitality suite?" he grumbled. "She's waiting for her phone to charge," I said. "Car trouble." I patched it. Patched. His eyebrows walked up his forehead. "We got liability, kid. You want us sued? Besides, it's past midnight. We don't sit strays." Maya stood to go, pulling the towel tighter around her shoulders. "I can wait outside." "You'll do no such thing," I said louder than I meant. Harlan and I locked eyes. I'd never pushed back on him before, but some lines are drawn in rain and still don't wash away. He snorted. "She buying gas?" I swiped my card before she could protest. "Full tank." "Not from the employee discount, you're not." "It went through my card, not your heart," I said, surprising both of us. He muttered something about paperwork and went to the back office. I turned to Maya, embarrassed. Sorry. She shook her head. Don't be. There's kindness and then there's taking heat for kindness. That's different. Her phone buzzed to life. She thumbed Pastor Lewis's number with the urgency of someone who knows time is a muscle that can cramp. As it rang, another contraction tightened her jaw. Past. She breathed in measured counts like an athlete. Pastor? It's me, she said. I'm okay. I'm at the old gas station on Route 12. She listened, then glanced at me. He's helping me. Yes, I'll try to make it there. When she hung up, she caught me looking. I'm not due for 2 weeks, she said. But the baby didn't get that memo. I can drive behind you, I offered. If the car quits, I'll push. Ryan, she hesitated. Is there a first aid kit? Yeah. Why? She took a folded envelope from her dress and slid out an ID and a hospital bracelet. The name on the bracelet wasn't hers. It read Maya Dex Halpern. They kept telling me to call my husband, she said. Dex would come and make everything harder. He thinks the baby is leverage. To pull me back. She paused. I left. With nothing that belonged to him. Not the money he hides, not the lies he tells. Just me and this child. Her eyes held mine. Honesty costs, but I can cover the price. Then we'll keep your change safe, I said. The shelter's expecting you. I'll make sure you get there. A pickup rumbled to a stop outside, headlights raking the wet glass. A figure jumped down, tall, hat pulled low. The door crashed open. Even before he spoke, I could taste the trouble. Maya, he barked. She froze. I stepped between them, not dramatic, just there. We're closed, I lied. The neon disagreed, but I refused to let it argue. The man, Dex, looked from my face to Maya's belly, to the towel, to the heater. You running around town with gas station boys now? Maya's hand found the counter edge and held on like it anchored her to something better. I'm leaving, Dex. In the rain? With my baby. He jabbed a finger in the air. You can't. It isn't your baby to weaponize, she said, voice steady. It's our baby to love. He laughed once, a sound like metal bending. You tell him the truth, Maya. You tell your gas boy savior about the money you walked away from. I told him I walked away from lies, she said. That was the expensive part. He moved. Fast anger. I moved faster. Not to fight, but to place myself where a fall would find me first. You need to leave, man, I said. There's a shelter waiting for her. You need to mind your pump. He grabbed for Maya's arm. The bell chimed again. Officer Noreen stepped in, rain steaming off her jacket. She took in the scene like a photograph, every detail in one blink. Evening, she said, hand resting near her radio. Anybody want to tell me why my cruiser's dashcam just caught a truck running the stop sign, then swerving into this lot? Dex turned, snarled. None of your. Try again, Noreen said. With less attitude and more truth. Maya exhaled. Officer, I'm headed to the church shelter. He's not letting me go. Noreen's gaze sharpened. Is there a protective order? Not yet, Maya said. There will be. Then for tonight there's me, Noreen replied. She shifted to block Dex's line of approach. Sir, take your truck and go home. Or take a ride with me. Those are the two roads out of here. For a second, Dex looked like a man choosing between a fist and a wall. Then he spat at the floor, backed out with the bell shrieking after him, and gunned the engine into the rain. Noreen watched him vanish. You good to drive, Maya? I think so, she said, then flinched. If we leave now. Go, Noreen said. I'll follow you to the shelter. I handed Maya her charged phone and the towel, because small comforts add up. At the door, she paused. Ryan, Yeah. You have a way of making honesty feel like warmth, not judgment, she said. Thank you. She walked into the rain, held upright by purpose more than strength. I went out to pump 3, double-checked my patch, topped off her tank, and tucked a little card under the wiper. My number in 3 words. Call of stranded. Her taillights smeared into the storm. Officer Noreen slid in behind her. The lot fell quiet, except for the neon and the rain and my heart, which had been hammering a new rhythm since she first spoke. Harlan emerged with a ledger cradled like a baby he did love. You paying for her gas was a stunt, he said. You think this is a mission? I think it's a station, I said. People stop here. We help them move. He looked at me for a long time. Then he grunted. You're on thin ice. Finish your shift. I mopped the floor, restocked the gum, tightened the bolts on a rattling shelf. The clock nodded toward 2 a.m. The heater clicked off. I unplugged it to save the bill. The door chimed again. I turned, expecting a stranger. Instead, Pastor Lewis, bearded, gentle, with Noreen behind him, rain like a halo. Between them, Maya, tired, but with a different light on her face. She insisted on coming back, Noreen said. Said you forgot to charge for your labor. I shrugged. I don't measure that in money. Pastor Lewis chuckled. Some of us measure it in bread and warm blankets. We brought both. Maya reached into her bag and placed an old locket on the counter. This is the only thing I kept from my mother, she said. I want you to hold it until I can return the cost of the gas. I stepped back like it was a sacred object. I can't take that. You can hold it, she insisted. Not as payment. As proof I'll be back. I didn't want her to promise me anything, but sometimes people need to promise themselves. I nodded and placed the locket in the safe under the empty drawer, in the slot where we keep the store's petty cash. It looked out of place among numbers and corners. Beautiful things usually do. Good night, Ryan, she said softly. Good night and thank you. They left, and I stood alone again with the neon rain. Morning brought the smell of wet earth and coffee. Harlan shuffled in, flipping through invoices. We short 100 here, he said. I'll cover it, I replied, even though I'd counted till my eyes crossed. He stared at me, then at the register. You're a fool, he said, almost tender. But the world needs 1 per block. I'll be this blocks, I said. Over the next week, word traveled in the quiet way news moves in small towns. People came by asking if we did quick fixes. A widow with a loose side mirror, a delivery kid with a chain that popped, a landscaper whose wiper blade ran off with the wind. I charged the cost of parts, not the cost of fear. A jar appeared on the counter one afternoon, labeled, Pay It Forward, Station 12. Coins and crumpled bills piled up, then disappeared when someone else needed them more. A few nights later, the storm's cousin came back. Less angry, more persistent. I was refilling paper towels when Maya walked in, the red dress replaced by a cozy coat, her beauty no longer shadowed by worry. She was holding a small paper bag and her smile had math in it. Addition, not subtraction. Hi, she said. Still open. Always, I said, and the neon agreed. She placed the bag on the counter. Inside was my locket's twin, a tiny silver charm shaped like a wrench. A thank you from the shelter's craft table, she said. The locket stays with me, but this belongs to you. You didn't owe me. I know, she said. That's why I wanted to. We sat on the steps by Pump 3, under the awning where the rain drummed its same old song. She told me about Pastor Lewis's spare room program, how she was learning bookkeeping for the thrift store the church ran, how Officer Noreen check-in calls felt like a fence made of kindness. She spoke of decks like a weather system moving east, still real but farther away. I keep thinking about that night, she said. You stood between me and trouble, but you didn't posture. You just occupied the space truth required. I thought about all the times I hadn't. About keeping my head down when Harlan shorted hours. About letting customers talk about those people like weather too. I'm learning, I said. Maybe service teaches honesty better than sermons. She glanced at my toolbox. How much of this is charity and how much is survival? Both, I said. But the jar helps. She smiled. We started one at the shelter too. Cradle Fund. For single mom's car repairs. Pastor says mobility is mercy. Pastor's smart, I said. The bell chimed again. A teenage boy rushed in, drenched and wild-eyed. Help! My sister. She's in the car. She can't breathe. We ran. In the back seat, a little girl coughed shallow and frantic. I recognized the story. An asthma attack with no inhaler and poor timing. Call Noreen, I told Maya. She did, voice calm, words precise. I took the girl in my arms, brought her into the warm shop, had the boy run for the paper bag by the coffee station. Old store trick, warm steam therapy. We made a tent with a towel, breathed with her, counted 5 in, 5 out. By the time the cruiser and the EMTs arrived, the girl's breathing had slowed from panic to effort, from effort to rhythm. The boy cried when the paramedics nodded at us. Maya's hand found his shoulder. She'll be okay, she reassured him. You got her help fast. Noreen gave me a look that said this is what it means to stand in the space truth requires. She left with a salute and a half-smile. Harlan appeared from the back like he'd been hiding from a fire and found a fireplace instead. He watched the ambulance pull away, then cleared his throat. There's a thing I want to show you, he muttered, shuffling to the office. The office smelled like old ledgers and older regrets. Harlan opened the safe where the petty cash and Maya's locket had spent a night together. He took out an envelope thick as a fist. My wife, he said, eyes on the envelope, used to run a free lunch out of our kitchen every Friday. Called it Tank You. 1 full tank, 1 full plate. He smiled, surprised at himself. She passed in '09. I packed the idea up with her things. But this last week, the jar, the folks talking about the honest mechanic at Station 12. He slid the envelope to me. It's not much. Care Fund. You run it. In her name. I swallowed around a knot. Harlan. Don't say anything sentimental, he barked, which is how men of his generation say I will cry if you do. Just do the job. We did. We called it Tank You, Station 12 Care Fund. We set rules that weren't complicated. Show need, accept help, pass it on when you can. Pastor Lewis's thrift store became the donation hub. Noreen steered folks our way when a car meant a second chance. Maya, with her new bookkeeping skills, logged every in and out with the fierce clarity of someone who has had numbers used against her and decided to reclaim them. Dex showed up once, sober and in smaller. He stood on the edge of the lot, staring at the sign like it owed him money. I went out to meet him. He looked at my hands the way insecure men look at hammers. I'm getting clean, he said, like a dare. I'm working with Pastor. I nodded. Good. You think you're some kind of hero? He sneered, but without heat. No, I said. I think I'm a mechanic. Heroes break under bad torque. Mechanics tighten what's loose. He laughed, really laughed, shook his head, and left. I didn't report it. Some chapters need quiet to turn. Spring found us still open, still humming. The Tank You board on the wall filled with handwritten notes. Fixed our brakes before a job interview. Got hired. Single mom. 2 kids, safe now. Thank you for believing receipts aren't the only proof. People who could pay paid a little extra. People who couldn't pay it in promise and gratitude, which spend just fine if you learn what they buy. One warm evening, the shelter door clicked open and Maya came in with a baby tucked to her chest. The child's hair curled damply on her forehead. Her cheeks were the soft honesty of the world starting over. "This is Alia," Maya said, voice proud and shy at once. "She likes the sound of the neon." I took off my cap because respect wears its own uniform. "Welcome, Alia," I said. "You picked a good station." We sat on the steps by Pump 3, same place as the night that looked like an ending and turned out to be a doorway. The rain was gone. The pavement held the sunset like a secret. "You ever think about what honesty actually is?" Maya asked, rocking Alia gently. "It's not just truth. It's alignment. Between who you are and what you do. Between what you promise and what you deliver. You did that for me before you knew my last name." "I didn't do it alone," I said, nodding toward the office where Harlan pretended not to listen, toward the road where Noreen patrolled, toward the church whose steeple meant shelter long before it meant sermons. "We're a small town. We fix what we can reach." Maya smiled. "Then let's reach farther." We started weekly service Saturdays. Oil changes and tire checks in the morning. Lunch from the shelter kitchen. A table where kids could learn how to patch a tube. Not as charity, but as competence. Harlan sat on a lawn chair and told stories about carburetors like they were fables. Noreen ran a booth on rights and resources. Pastor Lewis blessed the hands, not the tools. People who had once stood alone in storms now stood together under a sky that learned new words for clear. On the day Alia turned 6 months, Maya handed me an envelope, thin this time. Inside was a receipt for the exact cost of that tank of gas from the first night, plus $1. "What's the extra dollar for?" I asked. "For the lie you told. We're closed," she said, eyes shining. "Consider it paid." We laughed. The neon hummed. Somewhere down Route 12, a truck hit a puddle and made a sound like applause. That night, after closing, I unlocked the safe and placed the wrench charm beside the ledger of the Thank You Fund. I left the safe open and sat with the hum of the coolers, the tick of the cooling engine of my own truck, the memory of a red dress in the rain. Service isn't dramatic most days. It's hands that don't hesitate, receipts that add up, a station that stays open even when the world says closed. It's honesty that doesn't shout, just shows up again and again with a towel and a space heater and a promise to stand in the space truth requires. And if you're lucky, it's a baby's laugh under neon, reminding you that storms end, roads continue, and the distance between strangers is often just the length of an outstretched hand.